Should you play Torchlight Infinite? Torchlight Infinite is a new ARPG released on mobile and Steam sometime halfway through October of 2022. Game features your standard health, mana bar, sealed mana, a lot like Path of Exile in the health and mana aspects, and in the skill aspects as well, as you will be taking one skill, your main skill, in this case my Ice Shot, and buffing it up as high as is possible. All the rest of these skills will most likely be support skills for this skill here. The story in this game is alright, but is primarily just there to push you along in leveling up and getting through it, so that you can get to the real content this game offers, which is mapping. And if you don't like mapping, well then, I guess you're screwed. We'll discuss mapping more in a second. We're going to discuss a few other things first. First off, this is a seasonal game. I believe each season lasts either 3 or 4 months. And of course, the seasonal mechanic gives you access to very powerful gear. In this case, this gear is the corroded gear, which basically makes your gear uneditable and adds a random FX to it. So after you get a good piece of gear, you have to corrode it and hope you get a better piece of gear, and it doesn't just break the gear. You have a shared vault between all different characters that you're playing with. Yeah. There is the trade house. The trade house is very expensive and also very poorly designed. If I had to pick one thing about this game that I legitimately hate, it is how this trade house is designed. So you can't really, like, search things, like, if I click in what I think is the search bar, you see this is labeled Warcry here, and I just type, war, it doesn't come up. It's not here. So there's basically no point in using the search menu, so you have to scroll through all of this. Let's say we want boots, int boots, grace boots, we get to search this. We return to search. Okay, fine. Search. Click out of the trade house. Click back in. As reset what we're looking at. So you can't, like, click out and look at your item and then click back in. Personally, I think it's just save your position. It'd be a lot easier. And maybe have a functioning search menu. But the cash shop is a gacha system for little companions that come along your journey. Pack spirits is what they're called. What the pack spirits do is you can put one in each of these places, and then they change what buffs are around here. See, 18% projectile speed. You can also level them up with more of the same one. It is a gacha system. Take that how you will. I don't think it's game-breakingly pay to win, but at the same time, you're not going to be getting what you want off of free currency, most likely. So mapping. Mapping works after you've completed the story up to a certain point. You get to enter this, and you get to see all these different maps that you can unlock based on how far you've progressed in each of the other maps. I played maps for about 10 or 15 hours before I got bored with it. So how the maps work is, this here is the map boss. You need 9 rage, or whatever this is, attention points. You get an attention point from each of these maps, and then some of them have these that give you more than one. How these prefix cards work is whenever you clear this, and then fight the boss and kill the boss, you'll get another card or an upgraded card for that specific realm. Like this here and this here, both of these have, like, separate cards from what I can tell. Time mark is basically just how difficult it is. After that, you click in, you click next. You need a beacon to do that. Beacons are fairly easy to obtain. They're just random drops from monsters. Now you have base affixes, which can be rerolled using this Netherrealm Elementium to give you better drop quantity and better drop rarity, but, a bunch of nerfs to you. And then we have this over here, which you can just add, like, compass fragments to your map, and they give you more buffs, like this one here. Gives us 1 extra rare monster. And, this, yeah. As for mapping itself, it does not appear that the maps are randomly generated. I didn't play quite long enough to be able to say that for certain, but the maps are all, at very least, very similar to what they have been in the past. Which I feel for this type of game is just a very large disappointment, as these maps look randomly generated, but it doesn't feel like they actually are. So you don't have quite that careful crafted level design. You'll play through all of these maps in the story, and each of them will have, like, a mechanic in it somewhere. And a lot of those mechanics are taken away when it comes to actually mapping them for Netherrealms. There is a battle pass for this game, which unlocks you a, like, free version of their auto loot system when you hit level 15. which is it's pretty nice. There's no customization on it like there is on the paid version of the Autoloot system, but it's free. What can you expect? They're trying to make money. For me, I unlocked the Autoloot system at about the same time as I finished the main storyline. I don't know if it'll be like that for everybody, but that's how it was for me personally. The Autoloot system will not pick up gear, regardless of how rare it is. You'll have to manually do that. As for game performance, it is very smooth. I haven't had too many issues with the actual game performance on my phone or on my computer. I should hope I don't have any issues on my computer. That'd be not great. There is a gear crafting system, which allows you to retool affixes on gear. You can add more based on the embers that you have, like this ember here has a chance to add any of these 4 resistances. The gear system, honestly, is fairly well designed, but very grindy. There's also pre- and post affixes, the prefixes and postfixes. Make sure you know which one you're adding. Let's say I want to add crit strike rating to this hat here. Gotta actually craft it. It'll cost 1 flame sand. Pretty easy to get. You just give a bunch of your gear into the... You just trade a bunch of trash gear in for that. The flame elementium drop rates, I feel like, could be a little bit higher. I'm not quite at the top yet. I don't know if I will play enough to get to the top, but for where I am in the game, I feel like they should be a little bit higher, at least dropping every other run, which they do not. They drop maybe 1 in 5 runs. See, now that we've crafted this, we have the chance to either take it with its plus 9% cast speed, or take it before you put the change on it, which I really like about this system. It doesn't just brick you if it takes off something, because it also has a chance to drop these prefixes whenever you craft, so you can say, hey, I don't want to do that. It does eliminate some of the risk, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. There is an identify system, where you have to identify like the top tier gear, the pinks, and the pinks with 6 affixes, and the legendaries, but there's an auto-identify button, so I don't know why that's a thing. So if you're a fan of Path of Exile and you just want to play an ARPG while you're in your phone on the car, I would recommend Torchlight Infinite. I do not know how it compares to Undecember, as I have not played Undecember yet. I have been a little bit busy, unfortunately, but this is definitely a fairly solid option. Each of the rifts only takes 2 or 3 minutes at most, which is pretty doable, especially for like in a bus ride or while you're waiting for something. I could go into detail explaining how all of the skill systems work, but honestly the game does a fairly decent job of that by itself. It does not necessarily explain how all of the skills buff each other very well. Like here, this bloodbath here, it gains 3.8 times the effect. What does that mean when it's attached to Icebond? I have no idea. Overall, I think I'd give Torchlight Infinite an 8 out of 10 for a mobile game, and probably more like a 6 out of 10 for a PC game, compared to Path of Exile and the old Diablo games, from what I understand. That's about all I have for you. Definitely would recommend checking it out. Doesn't take that much to get into, and like I said, this game does have a very nice tutorial compared to a lot of other games that I have played, especially on mobile.